Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too rise to share a brief intervention on this very important debate. We are in the middle of settling estimates of revenue and expenditure to come to this honorable place shortly to present to the people of Barbados through this House what we intend, what we propose to do with the resources that they remit to us for our good judgment with respect to provisioning of goods and services to the people whom we serve. Throughout that process that started at the beginning of January, as we meet with several ministries, those of us who form part of the Estimates Committee, led by the Honourable Member for St. Michael North East, the Honourable Prime Minister, I want the people of Barbados, through you, sir, to be aware of the narrative of those conversations. And the narrative of those conversations is very much focusing on the delivery of the basic things that matter to people. In a previous set of remarks that I've shared, and the Honourable Senator in the other place who is responsible for energy and business often makes reference to it herself, I talked a lot about what I call fine work. What are these small things? And we have the capacity, and we will always be able to, as others like to say, I don't particularly care for, but as others like to say, punch above our weight. We, as we have seen, are capable of commanding international attention and the imagination of the world on things that matter with respect to global policy. That is not in dispute. What I am encouraged to see that we continue and in fact increase our intensity to deliver is the small things that matter to people. Sir, this health services amendment bill to which this report speaks represents such things. And when I say small, I don't mean small in terms of the value that they hold. I mean small to the extent that it might seem, or others may like to present it, as something inconsequential. But these are the kinds of things, when you look outside your door, what do you see? What is in your immediate environment? How do you feel? These are the kinds of things that matter. And I will tell you that as somebody who grew up in a village environment, as somebody who grew up in a situation where I could put my hand through my window and touch my neighbor's window, or indeed in some cases touch my neighbor. When you live in such small village environments, on small lots, it is important that around you feels light and clean. It feels like your head is clear, that you can start to think about the life that you want for yourself. These might seem like small things, but I am here to tell you, as someone who has lived it, that when around you is clean, when around you is clear, so too is your mind, so too is your spirit. So too is your sense that there's somebody who cares about how you are living. Sir, last Friday I had the unique privilege and pride to be able to hand over to the management and team of Weymouth Wales Football Club a certificate which guarantees and which certifies that the Weymouth B ground that is just behind the canal in Halls Road will now be the home ground of the Weymouth Wales Football Club. And I thank you for those who acknowledge that that is a big thing, because that is a big thing. It's not just a big thing because Weymouth Wales is a Carrington Village Club founded in 1960. And up to a few weeks ago, we're traversing Barbados, begging for space to train. These are the Premier League champions of the country, sir. And I know that those from Britain's Hill listening to me carefully, listening to hear how much I big up Wales, because I also have an abundance of wealth in that regard. Because I have other sporting clubs who are also doing well. Martindale's Road, Britain's Hill, Weymouth Wales, more coming. Because South Central is a sporting community, and of that we are very proud. But I had the honor, and I have to say thank you to the member for St. John, the Honourable Minister of Sports, Youth and Community Empowerment, and the team at the National Sports Council for joining me on the journey to make sure that after we finish the Constitution Road refurbishment and reconstruction project, that we were able to restore that ground and hand it over to that team. And that is important, sir, because, you know, our young people need to be able to look through their windows and not just see an absence of overgrowth, not just know that they are not being exposed to certain diseases and certain risks, but they also need to see their heroes right there where they live. And I feel very strongly about that. But that entire community project, sir, started with the Constitution River refurbishment of the canal. One of the first things I was told when I offered myself for service to the people of Barbados through the Barbados Labour Party and through the people of St. Michael South Central, when in 2016 I started engaging with the community, one of the first things I talked about was the overgrowth in the canal. But I made the point there, sir, to say, yes, it is important to remove bush for the health concerns, for the psyche concerns, for the sense of well-being concerns. It is important to do it for those reasons. But it is also important to do it as the basis of urban renewal in this country. So what did we say about that Halls Road project? We said that we were going to do at least 4 things. The first, to clean and refurbish the canal. And that includes all kinds of things. It includes being able to berth small boats. It includes the guys from the area being able to use their kayaks and go down. It includes all kinds of recreational and other activities. But we said 4 things. Refurbishing the canal was the first. The second was that we said that we would make sure that the contractors and the Sports Council and others who had that responsibility, we would make sure that they would return the Weymouth B Pass to a state that would allow Weymouth to have it as their home ground. Number 2, delivered of 4. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, we said that we would establish the Halls Road Commercial Village. And another woman in my position may not choose to remind the country through you of promises not yet kept. I just reminded of 2 that were kept. But I also have a responsibility to hold myself and my colleagues accountable to what we have said to people we will deliver. I don't run from accountability, sir. This government does not run from accountability. And so one of the things we said we would deliver was kiosks in that area so that the people who are already there can upgrade the circumstances in which they vend, and so that the people who have an interest in becoming small business operators, because not every small business person puts on a suit and tie and goes and sit down in an office or in a little room. Our economy is held up by small businesses. And some people say small and medium sized, but the truth is it's small, it's nano and small. Our economy is held up by that activity. And so we said that number 3 of those 4 things for that area would be to establish that Hallsworth commercial village. And it must be done. Because it was one of the first notions and ideas that we sat with people from that community and heard that they wanted. And so I will say to you now in this place, if I have to be the one, myself, who completes the work of understanding the costing and making sure that it is one that is sustainable, that it can be replicated in other places, then I thank my family and this country and everybody who contributed to giving me the wherewithal to do that analysis, because I could do it myself. But it must be done. And why? Because removing bush is not just about bush. It is about the circumstances that you create for people to thrive. So that's number 3 of 4 things for that area. Number 4 is that we also realize that a government cannot invest in infrastructure that allows water to flow and not similarly invest in infrastructure that directly affects people and how they live. And I have always said from the beginning that that Halls Road rehabilitation project, as important as it was, and as much as people in the area appreciate it, that it had to be accompanied by other efforts and had to be the basis for urban renewal in that greater Bridgetown area, because that is a greater Bridgetown area. And so the 4th thing we said was that you remove the grass, you make the amenity more pleasant, you return the playing field to the club, one of the most historic clubs in the country coming from Carrington Village. And 4, the roads in the area, as tiny as they are, must be repaved and regenerated. And it's not because people want roads. It is not a feather in anybody's cap. It is not a box that anybody is checking. It is that the basis of urban renewal has to be about making nice where people live, in circumstances where people live in tight conditions like I grew up. So in Hallsworth, we said the canal, moving the bush. We said giving back Weymouth Wales their playing ground as a symbol to the young people in that area of what focus and discipline can deliver to them. We said number 3, that the kiosk must go there. And number 4, that the roads, the small gaps on the other side of the road, have to be rejuvenated for the people that live in there. Because when you're spaced tight, and when your money ain't so small, but it might not be as big as you want it to be, and when your family big, and you got enough to do for people, what lightens the load? Feeling like around you feel nice. And so I don't want us to believe that this is just about cutting grass. And any urban renewal in which this government invests, or any government invests in this country, has to put people at the center. I had the distinct privilege, sir, of being the minister responsible for investment along with the Honorable Prime Minister some years ago. And we committed that, yes, the infrastructure was necessary to support how people live. But when we talk about urban renewal, it is everything. It is the quality of the housing stock. It is the wherewithal for people to own or have a stake in where they live. So the transfer of property that was begun by the Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act. It is the water and sanitation investments that we also invested in Halls Road to continue to hook people up to sewage or give them sewage solutions if it's not that we are hooking them up to a central plant. It is the full gamut of urban renewal of which we will not lose sight. And I say that without any fear of contradiction, because I am proud to be part of a government that ensures it will not lose sight of the full urban renewal execution in which we must invest. We also said at that time, sir, when I had the honor to be minister with some responsibility for investment, that we were not only looking at the big hotels springing up in the air, but when the big hotels spring up in the air, a part of what they have to contribute is what we called at that time planning gains. And I had the honor of being the minister who was responsible for rolling out the first set of planning gains. And what does that mean? That those large companies and corporations must then be investing in the urban renewal around them. So that we said that there was no way that the Hyatt was going to go up without similarly investing in town around it. People's lives, how they live, what they enjoy. We said the same thing for the hotel that is going up near Trent's playing field. And the commitment of those developers to invest in the maintenance of the field and the surrounding areas. So, sir, this is not just a simple matter. This is about the core of this Barbados Labour Party's commitment to people and how they live. But, sir, the ministry that I now have the honor to help lead is also a part of the conversation. Because we think that grass is grass and it's just waste, and you cut it and you heap it up, and when you get a chance, you come and remove it. But, sir, the property at Newton, the life sciences complex that we've started there, the digital and medical technology hub that people will have seen going up, that is also an example of how we have an opportunity to connect this waste that will be generated to real production. Sir, over 1,000 tons a day of waste is treated in this country. And 70% of that is bio-waste. So things like the same grass that you'll be cutting, the same coconut husks that bedevil us now, that we have to find a way to get rid of sustainably. And so at Newton, what we're able to do, and what Export Barbados has been leading on behalf of the Ministry of Industry on, is setting up a biogas fermentation facility that allows us to take that waste and turn it into energy. And so we've set that model up at Newton as a way to power that building. And that building is set to be, once complete, 80,000 square feet before we get to even putting in the mezzanine level. But that 80,000 square feet now makes it the single largest single-story commercial property on the island. But apart from the economic opportunities that it will provide in the digital economy and the medical technology economy, it is also a model for what is possible if we apply our minds and hearts to wisdom and the future of energy production in this country. And so what we've done at Newton is to say, look, we take the same coconuts from the coconut vendors that we've set up at Newton, we take the waste from there, we take some of the bio-waste, grass, and so on from all of the estates across BIDC Export Barbados and bring them to that facility to be converted into energy. Now, what does it mean that we now will be generating or have the capacity to generate more of this grass and bio-waste from the highways and the byways and the lots that people have abandoned? It means that it is our task now to set up a value chain where we pull these resources, they're resources, you know, we pull this in to other biogas fermentation facilities across the island. No, not everything is for government to do. I won't tell you, sir, that we will go across the country setting up fermentation facilities to take all of the grass that people will generate, but it represents an opportunity for others to adopt the technology and make it a business. It is fully there for us to get right. And I will not seek to preempt the Honourable Minister responsible for the environment, who I know will have much to say on these matters. But the way that we treat waste is a conversation that we have to have. Because more and more we have to understand that it has to be a conscious activity in our lives. The extent to which we generate waste, what kind of waste we generate, and to what further purpose is it put? So that if we are in a situation where we have to dispense with something, get rid of something, it should trigger for us, it should put into our minds, how much of it are we generating? And are we generating the right kinds? The idea of the right kind of waste may seem strange to us. But the fact that this is a process where you're bringing crop straw or grass to interact with manure, it means that these are the kinds of inputs that we need. The kinds of inputs that we don't need are the kinds of things that are not biodegradable. The amount and kind of waste that we generate in industry and at the household level is a part of the conversation that we have to have. This conversation is not just about bush. It is not just about grass. It is about, one, how do we make this the basis of urban renewal, of urban investment, of economic enfranchisement, of energy production, of a new economic model. That is what this thing is about. So for those who would like to suggest that this is a light conversation, well, maybe because their brains are so light, they may only have the capacity to conceptualize light conversation. But this is a consequential piece of legislation. And it begins to open up to all of us opportunities for investment, an appreciation for how do we invest in communities in ways that matter to people. When we clear the bush and debris and the grass, what then becomes available to us in terms of space, sporting opportunities, as we saw with the regeneration, with the handing over the field to Weymouth Wales, investing in young people through sport. I believe fundamentally in that. And I leave here this afternoon and go to Valerie Britton's Hill to launch another Barbados Football Association National Peace Program hub for the young people in that area. To every week come to a place, learn the fundamentals of the game of football, and alongside that, learn some of the life skills that will allow them to negotiate on the pitch, to understand how to make this real in their lives, to understand how teamwork is not just on the field, but it also has to be brought to bear in your house and with your friends and at school, and as you chart your career and the life that you want to live. This debate is not about Bush. This legislation and these amendments are not about Bush. They are about how are we investing in urban and rural renewal and regeneration and economic opportunities for the people of this country. And with those few words, sir, I'm obliged to you.